Hello, my name is Wi-Fi Punk, and today I'm going to be teaching you the essentials of how to build a world for VRChat. I'm going to dive right in. I'm going to skip over a lot of the super basic stuff like installing Unity or downloading the SDK. I'm going to assume that you already kind of know that stuff either from working on avatars or whatever, but if you don't, check the description down below where I will have linked the documentation for installing the necessary version of Unity, which is 2017.4.15 F1 at this current time. And then once you're ready, I personally am using the Unity Hub, that's why it looks like this, but you just create a new project, name the project, whatever it is you want, tutorials, that sort of thing, set the location for wherever you want, and hit create. It'll take a second to make the project, but I've already got one ready. So I'm going to go ahead and open that now, and it'll look something like this. You won't have any folders in a fresh project, obviously, so you'll have to import the SDK first. You can just double click on it, or you can click and drag it into your project. It'll decompress, and then it'll ask you to import. You'll just want to go ahead and click import. I've already done so we don't really have to worry about it. I also recommend getting the standard assets off of the Unity store. You can get to the asset store just by going to Window, Asset Store, and then you can find the standard assets by searching standard assets. They're free. Highly recommend checking them out because they are supported and there's some useful stuff in there. So first off, what do we need to do? We need to save the scene, because if we don't save it, then we can lose all of our progress, and that's no fun. So we're gonna go to File, Save Scene As, or you can just hit Control S and save it. We're just going to call it Tutorial 1, nice and boring. So we've got this now. We've got a main camera and a directional light by default. We don't have to worry too much about either of these at the moment because I'm not going to go into lighting or post-processing or anything right now. That's a tutorial for another day. But if you right-click on Tutorial in the top left and then go to Game Object, 3D Game Object, and then you'll see a bunch of different stuff here, cube, whatever, plane. We're going to go with the plane right now. There's also terrain. Terrain in Unity for VRChat can be a little finicky, but I have friends that have had a lot of really good success with it. So we're just going to make a plane, like I said, again, right-click, 3D object, plane. You can do that by either right-clicking on the project itself or in this open space. Either way, once you've done that, you can rename things in the hierarchy by clicking on them and pressing F2 and then naming it, whatever. In this case, I'm going to name this ground because this is going to be the ground of the map. And it's kind of like this boring white color. I'm not really a big fan of it. So let's go ahead and set a material to it. First off, I'm going to create a new folder for my materials by right-clicking in the bottom, create folder, and I'm going to name it materials. And then I'm going to hit enter twice and then come into this folder, and I'm going to right-click again, create material. And I'm going to call this ground_mat. And then I'm going to set the shader on it to standard specular. And this is because I don't want any shine at all. So I'm going to set the smoothness all the way over to the left. And then I'm going to change the color next to the albedo to like a nice blue. Like a nice dark blue, Something like this. And then I'm going to drag that in to the object. You can either, drag it into the hierarchy up here. You can drag it in over here. You can click on the object and then go to the materials and drag it in here. There's lots of ways you can go about doing this. So once you've done that, we need a spawn. We need a place to load into the world. So you can get that out of the, like a prefab for that out of the SDK by searching in the bottom here for world. And you'll see two. There's VRC SDK world and VRC world. Never touch the SDK world. Grab the VRC world and drag it in. Now we've got this. So fun fact is you will spawn facing the blue arrow by default. You will always spawn facing that direction, and you can see which direction it is by adding component in the bottom right and just typing camera and then whichever way that camera is facing, that is the way that you will spawn in game. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that because at the current time we don't need it. But what we do need is jumping, because a world without jumping is not a good enough world. So add components in the bottom right and search for player, and you'll see a few things here, but you want the VRC player mods. So add that, and then check the box next to is room player mods, and then add mods. Click the add mods box, and then you'll see mods jump. You can also click that to see speed, voice, and health. Don't worry about the other ones for now. We're just going to do jumping. Add mod. It'll add it. Don't spam it. If you spam it, it'll add more than one, like this, and then you'll have to remove the extras. So we've done that. We've got VRC world with jumping. Don't worry about the blueprint ID or anything, because this is a fresh world. But the scene descriptor is a necessary thing for every VRChat map. You need that because that's what tells the game where you can spawn. You can set multiple spawns, all this other fun stuff that you can feel free to mess around with. It's too much for right now. So we've got that, and we've got our ground. We've named it. You know, we've done the essentials. We could technically load this up right now and it would work, but we're not done. We're not done. We still want to do a couple more things. We want to make a cube that we can pick up, and then we want to add in a mirror and a background audio loop that we can turn on and off. So first off, let's do a box. Let's do a box that we can pick up. We got this cube right here. So I just right click in the top left, game object, 3D object, and cube. So now we've got this cube. It's just a standard cube, nothing too special about it. You'll notice it already has a box collider by default, and I'll go into the colliders here in a second. But basically, a collider means that it's not going to fall through. It's the easiest way whenever we add the pickup to it, or the gravity to it. Also, you won't be able to walk through this at the current time. We can change when we change this. You will be able to. So I'll kind of cover that really briefly. So we're gonna go to add component in the bottom right, and we're gonna type pickup. So just type pickup, and you'll see a VRC underscore pickup. And so choose that, and it'll automatically add a rigid body, and by default it's going to have gravity. So if I show you by bringing this camera a little bit closer and hitting play, you'll see it fall. See, it just falls straight down. If you for some reason don't want it to fall, you can set the drag to infinity. Actually, I'll show you here. We're going to set drag to infinity, angular drag to infinity, and then change throw velocity boost min speed and min scale to 0, and then disable gravity. Now when this gets picked up, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to stay right there, and that's how it'll work in game. So that's all you have to do. We'll change that back, and there we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add an object sync, because right now you've got this cube that everybody can see it, but if you pick it up and are waving it around, nobody else is going to see that cube in your hand. But we want them to. So go to add component, go to or type in object, and then you'll see one named object sync. So VRC underscore object sync. Click that, and you'll see synchronize physics, allow collision transfer. Leave those checked. That's all you have to do. You are done. You officially have a cube that when you spawn in, you can walk over to, and you can pick it up and throw it around and do whatever other weird kinky shit you want to do with it. Just to cover really quickly, the colliders. So you'll see right here, there's a box collider, and then on the ground, on our plane mesh, we have a mesh collider. So The difference is that if, say you have like a triangle, a mesh, in case you don't know this, a mesh collider will wrap around that triangle versus a box collider will put that collider, or put that triangle in a box. It's like putting a triangle in a cardboard box. So the way that whenever we added the pickup right here, it also set the layer to pickup. So we're not going to go into super detail about layers at the moment, but an object on the pickup layer will automatically let you walk through it. So you can walk through it. There's no collision on player. There's no player collision on this object. So if you were to walk up to this object, you could walk through it. You can pick it up. In general, if you're picking up an object, if it has a collider on it that collides with a player, it'll fling them up in the air and that sort of thing, and you don't want that generally. You generally don't want that. So it's nice that it does that now. So what else do we need? Well, we need a mirror, but you know, we need a little bit more space. We need a little bit more space for a mirror. So we're gonna click on the plane, and we're going to go to our scaling tool, which you can get to by just hitting the R key on your keyboard for the shortcut. You can also do E for rotation and W for positioning, so like this. And then you can also click cycle between these up here in the top too. So, or if you want all of them on at the same time, you know, that's go for it, you know. So we're gonna scale this up. I'm just gonna click in this middle box, and I'm gonna scale it up. Actually, I'm gonna hold Control so that it scales up at intervals. We're gonna go up to 2.5. So we've got this much bigger square plane now. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. And then we're going to add in a mirror right here. And then we're also going to add in audio. So first off, let's do the mirror. So in the bottom here, we're going to search for mirror. There's a VRC mirror in the SDK by default, and I'm not going to go into a ton of detail regarding what layers to reflect and that sort of thing. But you can disable layers so that you only see the player, or like you only see, or like you can see things that you can't see normally or whatever without the mirror. You know, like there's a lot of fun things that you can do with it. So we're going to add in this mirror, this VRC mirror that you can find by searching mirror in the bottom. That's included with the SDK. So you click that, drag that in, and it'll be pink like this. That's totally fine. That's not a big deal. That's because it's got the hidden internal error shader, which doesn't matter because it's not going to be seen. So I'm gonna scale it over, and I'm gonna scale it up just to make it a little bit bigger. You can edit the scale over here if you want. However you want to do this, it's all up to you. Again, it's R for the scaling, E for rotation, and W for positioning. So you've done that, and you want to you want to make a button. You want to make a button that turns it off and on, and then you're going to want to have it off by default, right? So first, let's come up here into the top left, go to game object, 3D game object, and make another cube. We're just going to make another cube, and we're going to put this cube right next to our other cube, but then I'm going to scale it down so that it's kind of like a pole. Scale it up a little bit. There we go. Check it. Easy clap, right? So we don't need a pickup or anything on it like the other one, but what we do need is a trigger, because we're going to be using this as a button. So we're going to put a trigger on it first off, and then we're going to go to where it says custom, click custom, and then change it to on interacts, hit add, and then under that you'll see always buffer 1 and always unbuffered and that sort of thing. Buffered or always buffered 1 means that like whenever somebody else joins, it'll automatically trigger that button for them. Always unbuffered means that when somebody joins, it won't trigger that button for them, but for both of these, it'll trigger for everybody in the world. That's not what we want. We want this to be just for ourselves, for the person that clicks it. So we're gonna click on advanced mode, There's a checkbox next to advanced mode. Check that. And then we're going to change it to local. Okay, this is really important. And so under the interactive text, we're going to make this mirror. And then you're going to see actions. So hit the little plus under actions. Go to basic events. Game or set game object active. A little bit farther than halfway down. Then click on set game object active under the actions. And then it says receivers this game object. Well, we don't want to turn the button off. We want to turn the mirror off. So we're going to drag the mirror from the top left here into the receiver section. You can also hit the plus and then hit this little like watch symbol and pick it from the scene. But if you have a lot of things in your scene, it's best to just drag it in, because that way you know it's the right one. So once you've done that, you're going to see under here it says operation, and it defaults to off. So we want to change that to toggle. All right, and there you go. Now you have a button that will will turn the mirror off and on. I'm going to make it so that this is this button is a trigger, which just means that you can like pass through it. Basically, its only use is to be clicked on. Basically, that's essentially the easiest way to describe it. And then I'm going to make this off by default. So to make something off by default, you just click on it, and in the top right, uncheck the checkbox next to VRC mirror in this case. There we go. So now it's invisible, but you still see the connection between the button and the mirror. Next, we're going to add in a 2D audio source. So if you check the description down below, I'll include a prefab 2D audio source. I'm pretty sure that there's a couple others that people have made that are essentially the exact same thing. I think JetDog made one, has it in his prefab stuff. Would recommend. But if you go to if you import that into your project and then add and then you'll have this 2D background audio prefab or whatever. You can also do this yourself or add in another one just by going to right click in the top right or top left again, game object, and then going to audio source. That's where you would add like an audio source. And so once you've done that, you'll see up here that there's an audio clip section. Again, I'm going to use the one over here because I want this one. So I'm going to come over here. I've got this audio clip right here. So I'm just going to drag this music audio clip into this audio clip spot. Again, we could just click that, you know, use something from in here, but it's easiest just to drag it in yourself. So like I said, this is already set to be just 2D for the entire world. You could also technically set the distance on it to be shorter or longer or whatever. And there you go. So now you've got a looping audio track, but I want to make it so that I can turn this off. Like I want to have a local toggle for the audio, because a lot of people don't like when you have audio that you can't turn off in a world. So I'm going to click on this other button, and we never actually named it. So I'm going to name it trigger underscore mirror. And then I'm going to duplicate it by, while having it selected, pressing or holding control and pressing D. And then so I'm going to move it over to the other side like that. And then I'm going to this cube that falls, and then I'm going to rename it to music. And then under the trigger section of this, I'm going to change it to music, or you just have music toggle, whatever floats your boat. And it's because it's essentially the exact same thing. The only difference is that instead of having it set to the mirror, we set it to this 2D audio from or this audio source from our project on the hierarchy on the left side. And again, make sure that it's toggle. We want it to be local, so we're all good, all set. If there's anything else that we wanted to do, now's the time. Like I don't think that there's a skybox included. Yeah, so like if we wanted to change the skybox, for example, we could do that. You can make your own skyboxes or download them off the asset store, do your thing. It's not a big deal. This is enough for us right now. If you want to, you can organize all of this here on the left a good bit by like right-clicking on your project, creating an empty object. I'm going to call this like environment, and then I'm going to put the ground and the triggers in here. I'll leave the rest like that, but this is now, if technically if we move this at all, these will move around, everything else will stay the same. I'll actually move the mirror under here too. This is mostly for organizational purposes. I encourage you to stay as organized as possible. The one last thing that we should do is set things as static. So this is the one little optimization thing that you should get in the habit of doing as early as possible. On anything that does not move, you'll want to set it to static. So basically this entire environment section, so I'm just going to click on environment, hit static. It's going to prompt me to ask if I want to change it for all of them or not. I'm going to hit yes. And so now the mirror, the ground, the triggers are all static, and they will not be moving in the project at all. So then right here, the cube will be. We do not want this cube to be static. If this is static, then you'll see here that if I like press play, it falls. If I set it static, press play, it does not fall. It won't go anywhere. It doesn't technically move. So we want to make sure that this cube does not get marked as static, no matter what. Everything else is pretty much fine. It's not even all that important. Like VRC world can technically be animated and moved, and then like the light doesn't really matter. So we've done that, but you can animate, things, and especially with this directional light, it definitely doesn't matter. But if you set things to static, then you're not constantly having the game check the positioning of those things. You only check it once when you first load in. So it ends up being a big optimizer when it comes to doing anything when you start to add in a lot of assets. But we're done. We did it. We're gonna save. Control S. We've done it. Congratulations. Now what do we have to do? We have to upload it. So we'll go up to the SDK, go to the settings, make sure that we're logged in, then go to show the VRChat SDK at the top again, show build control panel, and then under here you're going to want to have to enable collision. It'll prompt you, just hit the setup layers, setup collision. It's a first button, just click that a few times, then you'll see one that says like enable 3D spatialization. We don't really have anything that we have to worry about because we only have like one 2D audio source, but we can go ahead and click it anyway. So just click those at the top, and then after that you can test it if you want. If you have VR, it'll automatically load into your VR by default. There is a way around that, and I might just make a video on it because it takes like 5 seconds. I don't even know if I'll do a video. Maybe I'll include it with another one, like optimizing your workflow or something. That sounds like a fun video. So you can test it if you want. For me, it'll automatically start my VR, so I'm not going to do that. And you can go ahead and publish it too. So we're just going to publish it by going to publish, new build. It's going to build. Set the name of it to whatever you want. Let's hello world YouTube 1 is what I'm gonna name it. You can again name it anything you want. You can name it to fucking piss on me. Piss on me. I love it, daddy, or whatever you want. It won't get approved if it's too like lewd or anything. If you wanted to make it public, but I mean, it's whatever floats your boat in the meantime. So description you don't really have to worry about, and tags you don't have to worry about unless you go to make it public. And then you just hit the checkbox next to this, and you can actually go back to the scene tab up here if you want, and then you'll see this VRC Cam. I usually would recommend setting the main camera to wherever it is that you want your camera to be, your like thumbnail. It's basically your thumbnail for your world. So I'm just going to copy the transform from this camera by just hitting the gear in the top right, copy component, come over to VRC Cam, and then paste that into the transform right here. And now it's on this. And if we go back to the game tab, which is our upload tab, you'll see that the image has changed. And if we move it a little bit like this, you'll see that that it moves in the little prefab picture. So we've done that. I'm just gonna hit upload, and then let's check out our world real quick. Going to your worlds section, you'll see listed under mine. It should be the first one or only one probably for you. In this case, you'll see it right here. Hello World YouTube 1. It's 3 megs, you know, largely because of the audio. We're just gonna hit go. It by default will default to a private instance. Once we load it in, let's see if we can hear the audio. Yep, looks like we can. Might be a little faint for you. Turn it up just a little bit. We've got a cube. We can toss it around, play with our cube. We've got 2 buttons. Oh, yes, I actually have the audio still going from the other one. There we go. So now if you click this, and then if we click this, you get a mare. And there we are. I'm not usually a girl. I'm normally a Pikachu or a boy. I'm usually anime boy. But there you go. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed this fairly quick tutorial of how to set up your first world. Go make some cool stuff, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.